Okay, no skiing this morning. Gotta go for a little morning gymnastics.
Oh. Yeah, it's a beautiful morning, huh?
Ooh, the first thing that comes into my mind from this trip would probably be being like up close to a polar bear and like seeing the muscles of this huge giant animal moving along the ice and but still like being close to it, but also being safe aboard Sophia. I felt like Sophia was our little, safe den during this Arctic expedition. This was my second time on Sophia. I had a pretty wild ride a year prior, so wild that I was kind of debating whether it was worth getting back on Sophia. But I didn't really know sailing. Like, I was by no means an independent sailor. And for this trip, the captain, Mats, who knew how to sail, he had to sleep at some point. We're crossing open seas. So it was up to me and Celeste to take control of the boat and be, in charge during some pretty tricky sailing too. We had to cross ice. We had to navigate this huge, not huge sailboat, but like a pretty big sailboat, using the wind to not hit all these ice flows. So that was interesting, I would say, very exciting. And for Celeste, this was her second experience sailing after sailing camp that she went to as a kid. And she went there and she came home crying and swore to never go back on a boat again. And yet, there we were, navigating the Arctic ice on our own on Sophia. So Svalbard isn't really known for good snow in the outset. Like, it's an Arctic desert, it doesn't snow a lot. And so our strategy was to go in the spring when maybe you get a tiny little bit of warmer temperatures so you get some spring snow. And kind of kill some of the bad layers, do away with some of the avalanche danger. But we got a lot more heat than we expected. We actually got a heat wave. It was the warmest day ever recorded on Svalbard in May when we arrived, which is interesting when you're like right next to the North Pole. We sailed around a long time to find the lines. We were just searching. We were on the search. Like, we sailed from the very south end of Svalbard to the very north. There was nothing between us and the North Pole, essentially. We went as far north as you can go, looking for the lines that we ended up riding. So it was a big, line search, I guess. Just kind of cruising along the fjords, looking to find places. And what we were looking for, like, this is maybe a bit technical, but we're looking for places where we would get mechanical sintering in the snow, because we wouldn't get a refreeze, so the snow wouldn't compact with the temperature. So we needed the snow to sort of fall on itself and mechanically become more compact, so it would be safe to ski and you wouldn't just punch through to the rocks. When you're doing, an expedition into the Arctic on a sailboat, there's a very high focus on safety, and you have a big margin for anything going wrong, so that you're 100% sure that you're going to be fine. And in the mountain, it's like, sure, there is a big focus on safety and you do everything you can for things not to go wrong, but you can't eliminate the risk in the same way. So you have this acceptance that things might go wrong, and you maybe have a little bit of a more, like a wilder spirit maybe of, crossing your fingers and hoping things will be okay. We've just arrived on Svalbard. And so to go on land, you need to have a rifle. But the gun laws are very strict in Norway, so only people with a license could use the gun. So Asbjørn, the guide, he has the gun, and the captain has the gun, and one of the photographers. But the rest of us, we get to use the flare guns, which is like a signal pistol firing it's like fireworks, essentially. And so we go onto the sea ice. We anchor on the sea ice, and we go onto the ice, and the captain is going to show us how to use this flare gun. And then it's like, okay, you aim towards the bear, but, and when it's like 200 meters away, and it's coming like this, and oh my God, there's the bear. And then the bear is right there during the demonstration. So, and that was like I think we saw 6 bears total. So it felt like they were everywhere, and there were walrus all over the place, and all these birds, and the only animal we didn't see was the Arctic fox, which is a bit of a shame. They're very cute. Yeah, I got to swim with the seal, and that was kind of, I don't know, they're pretty big and they're fast swimmers. I'm not that fast of a swimmer, so I was like a little bit hesitant to swim with the seals, but no, they're friendly and they're so cute. They're so cute. They're just chilling. They're enjoying the sun. They're laying there like they're having the best time, and it's so fascinating to me because you go up there and it just seems like it does seem like a desert because it's so barren. There's no trees, almost no vegetation, and then still there's all these animals. And I'm like, how do they nourish themselves? Like, how do they get food? But then it's like all in the ocean apparently, all the plankton and all that they can live off. So it's very interesting to have this sea-based ecosystem. Even the polar bear is a marine mammal, actually. It's definitely a privilege to go up to Svalbard. It's, I mean, it's one of the last wild places on Earth, which is like, I don't take that for granted at all. And also just the resources necessary to go there. Like, it's super expensive to have a boat and a captain and supplies to do this. And I mean, my whole existence as a professional skier and filmmaker, I feel extremely privileged.